Fingers crossed. Hi guys, welcome back to Hear Me Out. Like I said, I'm still kind of getting used to doing this on my own. I do hope one day that I'll, fingers crossed, get somebody that wants to do it with me. I do have some people interested, but we'll see what happens the next couple of weeks, episodes, months. Not sure yet, but definitely gonna try to have some close loved ones or friends come on with me and, talk it out too. It gets a little bit more interesting when other people are also in as well. Hopefully the next episode I'm gonna try to get somebody to come on with me. This episode is gonna be a little bit different. For those of you that know me, some people know this stuff, some people don't. Some people know bits and pieces, but this episode is different. I've gone back and forth sharing this. I've gone in depth about some of this stuff. People that know me know about some of it. But I think a part of my purpose in life is talking about those things that people keep hidden. And over the last year, I just feel like a lot of things in my life have changed. And so I know for a fact that there are other people in the world that are probably going through the same things that I've gone through. And they may not be speaking about it or even reaching out to get help because they don't realize that what they're going through isn't okay. And I know for the longest time I didn't either. I'm sharing this from my perspective. I'm not here to attack anyone, especially not my parents, but I'm here to tell the truth and just be able to show others that what I've gone through isn't okay. And if you're someone that's going through it too, that you're not alone, that there's somebody that you can talk to, there's a safe place to talk to about it. And I just wish that I would have had this. I'm gonna be honest, I really did have those options around me, but I was too scared to speak up. And I do feel like now that I feel like I can actually talk and say my voice and say how I feel and everything that I've gone through. It's helped me a lot, and I've been able to be there for others and speak out on why it's not okay, And I want to be the change. I don't want to follow generational trauma. I don't want to follow in my family's footsteps, and I, know what I'm doing in my life. So part one, what I'll be talking about is my childhood. My childhood was not normal. I did not grow up in a stable home. There was a lot of chaos, inconsistency, and things that I didn't understand at the time. Things that I thought were normal that definitely were not normal. As a kid, you don't realize it's not normal. You just adapt and you just become a product of your environment. I'm going to talk about my mom first, my biological mother. A lot of people know that I do not have the best relationship with her. It is very back and forth. I struggle a lot with keeping her in my life, not keeping her in my life. It's very hard for me to talk about at times, but I know that over the years I've gone through a lot of therapy, and now that I'm able to talk about it, I know down the line that this might help somebody, Sorry guys, I'm reading some bullet points, just trying to keep myself, from rambling. But my mom struggled with a lot, mentally and emotionally. She was in and out of mental hospital a lot when I was a kid. Even before I was in the picture, even born, she was in and out of a mental institution, mental hospital. I don't want to say the wrong words, but I know there's different words of saying what it is, but she was institutionalized quite a few times. She battles with addiction, and when I say she battles with addiction, that doesn't mean that she's not clean. My mother will always battle with addiction. An addict is always an addict. She's always struggled with mental illness and probably always will. And she is so good at constantly lying that she's a pro at it at this rate. There were a lot of lies when I was a kid, constant instability. and it just was a toxic environment overall. There were so many times where she chose relationships over her kids. My mom and my biological dad got divorced when I was 2, 3-ish. I don't really remember the exact time. My mom got remarried when I was 3 or 4. Like I said, I don't really remember the exact time. But her and my stepdad were very toxic people. Definitely shouldn't have stayed together as long as they did. But my mom was completely okay with losing her child to this man. And when I became a ward of the court and was in foster care for 5 years, it was all because my mom would rather get high and would rather lose her child than leave the man who made her lose everything. She lost me and my sister both. There was a lot of physical and mental abuse. I remember, and my sister and I actually talked about this a couple years ago. My sister and I used to have bruises so badly that CPS would probably get called if we went to school. So there were times where we would just not go to school. People had hints that things were going on. People were just waiting for us more to say something rather than, stick their nose in it, which at the time I understood, but at the same time too, now I really wish that somebody would have jumped in. There was this time when I believe I was sophomore year of high school, so 10th grade. My sister was a grade ahead of me, so me and my sister both, it's just me and her from my mother. We are 2 years and 1 week apart, so she was in a junior, 11th grade, and I was a sophomore. I didn't have my license and neither did my sister, but we knew the only way to be able to get to school that day was having my sister drive, so my sister took the car illegally. She didn't have a driver's license, so she drove the car without a license, and we drove it to school. Something happened in that moment. I don't remember exactly if it was my mom and us got into a fight, my sister got mad at her, I don't know exactly, but she decided to just let loose and told everything. Told them about my mom's drug issues and all the things that were going on at home. And so then next thing we know, I'm getting called into my sister's classroom, and we found out that CPS was called. We were removed from not removed, but we did not go back home that day. Sheriffs showed up to the school. We were put in custody of our aunt, our dad's sister. Dad wasn't in the picture, in and out of jail. At that time, I don't really know where he was, but he just wasn't around us at the time. So we went with our aunt for the time being. But unfortunately, we ended up going back. My mom did not get in trouble for her child driving without a license. They came and picked up the vehicle. And a couple days later, we ended up going back because there just wasn't enough justification, which was crazy to me now thinking back, because there were so many signs showing that where we were living was just not a way that a child should be living. Just looking back, I'm just so baffled that it took so long for them to even take me out of my mom's custody. There's just some things that I wish the system was better about. I grew up in Riverside County in Southern California, and it baffles me to this day because if you guys know, there was a situation with CPS with a child. I forgot his first name, but his mom pretty much I don't know, she was abusing him, but her and the stepdad were abusing, or not even step, it might have been the boyfriend, but they were beating up the child and feeding him cat litter and all kinds of crazy things. And there were so many signs that he should have been taken from his parents. Because of all of that, he didn't make it. He was found dead. I don't remember exactly how long the whole entire situation went on, but when that situation went on, it hit my heart really hard, because the system has failed so many kids so many times, and I didn't get taken from my mom until I was 17. It took CPS a long time for them to actually like take what we were saying seriously. There was things that I witnessed as a kid that no kid should have seen. My mom would be taking care of these other women, so when she did work, most of the time she wasn't. Her and my stepdad would find ways of getting welfare, whether it was like food stamps or things like that, or social security, disability, and so they most of the time didn't work. But my mom at the time had been doing like in-home health care, and she would steal jewelry from these elderly people and she would pawn it for money. Back then I knew that stuff was wrong and I regret it so much. I wish I would have spoken up a long time ago, but things like that was going on. My stepdad having multiple social security numbers, obviously like that's definitely not okay, but like just stuff like that, like they were constantly breaking the law. And I lived in fight mode all my life up until I was taken at 17. But the problem was I didn't know anything different. I remember my junior year of high school, might have been senior year, I'm sorry. So a lot of these things are a blur just because so much went on when I was a kid, but my mom told me that she was diagnosed with breast cancer and that she was dying, and she played on this for months. Made it seem like she was going to chemo treatments. There was times where she didn't want me to come home because she said she didn't want me to see her throwing up and all these things. And I was a kid, I was naive, I didn't understand everything, and I had my doubts. But then when she started coming home and like, things just did not seem right. I remember the day that I finally got removed from her care. The lady that was supposedly taking her to chemo treatments, I confronted her and asked her, like, hey, has this been going on? And she was just like, no. And there was just some crazy stuff going on in the back, and I could go on for months and months and days and weeks and about the stuff that I saw when I was a kid. And I'm sure that's a story for another day, but she used to leave me in a home. I remember my senior year of high school, we were living in this house about 30 minutes from my high school. I didn't even have a bed in my bedroom. You walked into the room and like it was just like a pile of clothes on the floor. Most of the time I would just find somewhere comfortable to sleep. And it's just sad now thinking about it. My parents had a bed, but I didn't have a bed. They made sure that they were comfortable and that they had everything they needed. But what I needed never was a priority. And when I got taken from my mom, I was 85 pounds. I was severely malnourished. I was living in a home with no water, no electricity. We had the utilities had gotten shut off. My stepdad was in and out of the picture. I can't even tell you how many vehicles my mom and my stepdad would wreck, and I don't even think we had a vehicle at that time. And then we got evicted from that duplex. It's just, looking back, I think I realized that I was really on my own for a majority of my high school years, My sister ran away from home when I was a junior in high school, and things were never the same after that. She was already an adult, so there was nothing that my mom could have done, but she literally put her stuff into a laundry basket, told my mom she was going to the apartment laundry facility to go do her laundry, and she never came back. And the part that I think is hard for me is that no one stepped in, and if it wouldn't have been for myself for actually like speaking up and being like, I don't know where my mom is, I don't know what's going on, and just finally telling them everything, I wouldn't be where I'm at now. I just, the aftermath of it all and the things that I've realized and how my childhood affected me, specifically with my mother, I questioned my worth for the longest time. I've struggled with relationships. I've struggled with seeing what I do and don't deserve. And all my life, all I did was survive. When I should have been able to be a kid. I should have been able to enjoy my life, you know? I had to grow up a lot quicker than most people. And a lot of people that I went to high school, middle school with would tell you, like, they had no clue that none of this was going on at home. I was very quiet about it. Very select few knew. I did have some teachers that knew, and I had some pretty amazing teachers that helped me get through it. But I'm still unlearning all of those traumas that I went through. I still struggle with trusting people and opening up. And I think the hardest part for me is, to this day, my mother has yet to take accountability for everything that she's done. I've tried to have a relationship with her. Some people just don't change. Some people just genuinely don't know how to see what they've done and take accountability for what they've done. And unfortunately, that's my mom. She still to this day lies a lot. She's gotten clean. She's no longer on addicted to painkillers and drugs and things like that, but she to this day thinks that she gave me the best life that she could with what she had in front of her. I will never understand that to this day. And as somebody who has struggled with being able to have kids, I will never put my kids through what my mom put me through. And I do hope one day I will be able to have kids one day so I can give them the love that I never had. I feel like I'll always have that hole in my heart knowing, like, because I never had the love that I wanted from my parents, I truly hope that one day I can give that to my own kids. Okay, next part. My biological father. This is not funny. I kind of laugh on it sometimes and it's not funny, but it's just, I think, my way of coping. But I don't like to call my father my father. Most of the time I'll call him my sperm donor, just because my father has put me through a lot. My relationship with my father is very complicated. There were things that's happened that should have been taken seriously that to this day has never been taken seriously. I experienced grooming and sexual abuse from someone in my family, someone close to my dad's side of the family, and instead of being protected by my father, I was blamed for it. He chose to keep that person in his life, and that broke something in me, and I don't know if I'll ever get that back. You know, as a little girl, you always think that, you know, your father is the one that, you know, that's your first love, that's the person that has your back no matter what. But my father was the first person, the first man in my life to hurt me. When everything came out about that situation, I was completely disowned by my family. Instead of being, you know, listened to and heard, I was completely just pushed out, and that's hard. You know, nobody should ever feel like someone doesn't believe them, you know, especially when, like, you're in blood, you know. I was their blood, and not one person took my side. I was the one that became labeled as a problem. This incident happened back in 2016. And to this day, I have not talked to any of those family members. I did talk to my father back in March of 2020, right before COVID hit. And since then, I have not talked to him since. You know, I've been called a black sheep. But at the end of the day, it's just because I'm the one who actually has the voice to speak. You know, I made a big decision that day to not speak up. You know, I let it go. And that's something I'm going to have to live with for the rest of my life. But families would rather protect dysfunction before protecting the actual truth. They'd rather silence me than fix the situation. And I don't think it'll ever be fixed. I mean, too much time has gone by, and I just don't think that my family will ever speak on it again. All I know is that I refuse to carry this into the next generation. I am breaking the cycle of, you know, family trauma and hiding behind something. This cycle will not continue. I will never, ever let my children or my family members or loved ones ignore abuse. I will never hide addiction. I will never normalize dysfunction. And I will never protect people that cause harm. Just because they're family doesn't make it healthy. I tell people all the time, the people that I choose in my family is because I chose them. And just because they're blood doesn't mean that they have to stay in your life. This is me choosing to heal out loud, instead of suffering in silence. It's taken me 5 years to open up about it. I have made jokes constantly that I want to write a book, and who knows, maybe one day I'll actually get the courage to actually sit down and just start writing it. This is just like a snippet of like what I went through in my life. My mom and my dad both have put me through quite a lot in my life. And no child should ever feel like it's their fault. I was a child. It doesn't matter if you're 5, 6, teen, 25, 30. I'm still my parents' child. And it's actually sad to say, my dad has actually told me like straight to my face too, I never wanted you. And that's not okay, No child asks to be brought into this world. So no child should ever feel like their parents don't love them. I will make sure from now till the day I die that my kids never feel that way, and they know how much that they're loved, and I will protect them day in and day out. I definitely didn't say everything in this episode. I knew that this episode was going to be a little bit more deep and a lot of reflecting and a lot of, opening up some wounds that I've closed with band-aids, over the years, but as I've started to get this podcast going, I want people to be able to see that I'm willing to be open and talk and be there for others. I don't want people to ever feel like they have to deal with anything alone. Maybe one day I'll be able to go deeper into the trauma with my family, especially with my mom and dad. And I know one day I will. I also want to protect my peace too and protect all the healing that I've done. This episode is definitely one of the hardest episodes I've ever recorded, especially doing it alone. I'm opening up about parts of my childhood that shaped me into ways that I'm still to this day healing from. I won't share everything, but that doesn't mean I won't eventually. It's okay to speak out about things that people think that you're not supposed to speak out about. Things that go on behind closed doors. Everyone heals in their own way. And this is kind of like a form of healing for me, knowing that I can help others with my story. I know for a fact that a lot of people, just looking at me or just seeing me from social media or things like that, people have their stereotypes. I'm a white female from Southern California, so people just assume, oh, she's this, and this, and that, and probably complete opposite of what you expect. But this is about me growing in my chaos, being failed by the people who were supposed to protect me. And this is what it looks like, breaking cycles that were never meant to continue. If you've ever felt like the black sheep for telling the truth, this one is for you. And please share this, share my podcast for those people that I will never ever shut anybody out. This episode's touching on abuse, addiction, and what it means to break generational cycles. I'm not here for any sympathy. I'm just here to share my truth and to help others heal and help myself heal as well. I know I have a purpose in this life, and I do feel like this is one of them, being able to help others through my trauma. I'm speaking on my experiences. I'm not here to blame or expose anyone. I'm just here to heal. Some things are left out, and that's okay, and I do it for a reason. And some stories aren't easy to tell, but you can be anonymous and reach out and tell me your story. Just know that there is somebody here for you to talk to. Hope you guys enjoyed my little podcast episode today. It's a little short, but I promise as time goes on they'll get longer and longer. But hear me out. Bye.